Good evening, guys, and welcome. People on the radio, welcome, and all around the world. We are live on radio and on podcast. And don't forget, guys, if you're on the radio, please put all your messages in the right hand column, and on the podcast, please put them underneath, and not on the left hand side because you get my messages mixed up. Okay. Good evening.
Hi Steve, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's Diwali today, so happy Diwali to all your everyone who's listening in.
Yes. Yes. Bless you. Thank you for that. And Diwali to you too. And
Thank you.
I,
I've been hogging sweets all day long. Um, Goes on for another day, I think.
you enjoy yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I hope it's very good over there. And I've been there. I've been in India once. About that was years ago. Years ago. Anyway, how have you been on here before? No. Are you new?
I'm new on this
Yes.
show, so thanks
Okay.
for
Okay.
having me. I'm very
That's okay.
excited.
I can't remember because there was somebody like you. I had a you on about 3 weeks ago, so I'll get everybody mixed up. We'll get confused. Anyway, tell everybody about yourself.
So I'm a transformation coach. How this has all come about really is my story is that I'm an ex-banker. I'm originally actually from Kenya, not from India, but I now live in London. And how all of this has come about recently is through the pandemic. So basically, like a lot of people, I think there are very few people who the pandemic hasn't touched in some way or the other, whose lives haven't been changed in some way or the other. And I was one of those. So I always used to work in banking and I always used to be a coach and a speaker. And what happened was during the pandemic, I couldn't get another contract. I ended up, I live alone. So I ended up, really feeling the isolation. I ended up with financial problems. And then I ended up with a lot of anxiety, and living on my own did not help that anxiety at all. I ended up with a frozen shoulder. And if anybody's had a frozen shoulder, it's literally one of the most excruciating, painful things that can happen. And you really can't move your arm, and it was a nightmare. I started getting a lot of other health issues just from the frozen shoulder and the anxiety and being alone. So it all came down all at once, all together. And I was very anxious and I went through a real low and I went through a real depression. But in the end, I think what I started to do slowly, bit by bit, was I then eventually I think something happens when you're in that state of fright and being scared, and suddenly, something just dawns on you and you just think, I can't carry on like this. I've got to move. I've got to do something. I've got to slowly pick myself up and I've got to move forward. Like, even that becomes too much, and at some point you have to just put yourself forward. So literally, I started taking myself out for small walks. I would start by. I read some really positive podcasts. I started listening to some music, and then I used to just force myself every single day, twice a day, to go for walks. I would go for a half-hour walk, and I would sit for half an hour in the park. Then I would listen to music, and slowly, and then I would force myself to cook something healthy at nights for me. And then slowly, bit by bit, I started coming back to myself, and my energy started coming back, and it didn't feel as scary. And then slowly, I just started picking myself up. And now I'm doing the thing. I think the pandemic essentially has ended up pushing me into the place that was one of my dreams and that I always wanted to do, but I always had the not now, not yet, not ready phase. And the pandemic, like me and like many businesses and like many people, it's pushed us into the things that I think were lingering at the back of our minds of I should do this, I should I should do this, I should do it anytime. And then literally, um, I just I got pushed into what I needed to be doing. And I think a lot of people will be feeling this. I've heard of people who've had relationships break down. I've heard of people who've had financial problems. Everything's just been heightened. So everything that was already lingering and needed addressing has really come to the forefront for me and for many others. But really, it kind of was where my business was born. I reinvented myself. I retransformed myself, and I'm now doing the thing that I think I always wanted to be doing.
Great. That is wonderful. What because sometimes we all kind of like it's like fireworks.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. There's fire. If you can hear the fireworks in the background, there's literally nothing I can do about that. I'm really sorry.
Right. Okay. Is that in London?
It's in London. I live in Harrow, and it's a fairly Indian
Yeah.
populated
Yeah. I
area.
know. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so unfortunately, whilst they're beautiful to watch, there's nothing I can do about the sound. So if
Don't
you're
worry about it.
listening to the fireworks, just imagine the beautiful fireworks going off. It adds something to the imagination.
Brilliant. Sometimes we all go down to a low point and we come out and we need to go. Sometimes what happens is that we go to like a deep down into the pit and we ain't got nothing left and sometimes we feel like giving up. But then we just, hey, we need a click and, bring us back up again. Where are you two now in your life? Are you more confident in yourself or are you still on the, like, you feel really low?
No, so I passed the worst low phase that I felt, the real anxiety, the real depression. And I think there just comes a point where you're like, if I think there was a critical point where I think I just thought, it really got to a point where I kind of thought, right, there are two options now. Now I'm at such a low point. I'm either going to have to ask my family for help or I'm going to have to find a way out of this myself. And one thing for me is I've always tried to be independent, and having to ask my family for help really becomes a very last resort for me. So the idea of, okay, now it's critical and now I have two choices. Either I'm gonna have to ask my family for some help or I'm gonna have to do something. And out of those two options, the one that I knew I had to take was, there was one thing I was gonna do is I was gonna try and pick myself up before I reached out to them. So that kind of was my turning point. I got really low and it got really bad. And in fact, I did have a chat with my sister, and she was like, well, you now need to speak to my parents are in Kenya, and she said, you need to speak to them and you need to go and see them, or you're going to have to ask them for help. And I just thought, I just didn't want to do that. So that became my turning point. And the point of my story is everybody has a turning point.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
turning point could be, right, it's going to affect my family, it's going to affect my wife, it's going to affect my kids. I've heard stories of people running up, credit card debt. They've extended their mortgage as far as they can, but there comes a critical point where it's like, right, now this, I've maxed everything out. Now this can't go on, and it's starting to affect other people. Um, I think you can let yourself go, but the minute it starts involving other people, I think that for me mostly that becomes the turning point.
yeah. Are
Um,
you still, so are you just doing this now, what you're doing? You know, uh, this coaching, is it just this at the moment that you're doing? Or is it anything else you're doing?
so what I did was I picked myself up and I set up my business, and I'm doing the business, but I kind of got into a bit of financial debt over the last couple of years. So I do also do some part-time consultancy work to just also in parallel help pay the bills. And that would be my advice to everybody based on my own journey, is that when, money worries are a big thing. And I think that's kind of right up there with everything else. And if not the biggest thing most people have, right? And so it doesn't help your depression and your anxiety and your relationships when you don't have money and you're constantly worried about money. So, as much as a life of no meaning is also no fun, a life of no money is also no fun. So, what I say is, if you need to do whatever you need to do to get some money coming in, and that becomes your support system, but continue to build your business in parallel or continue to build your dream in parallel. Don't forget what your dream is and don't give your dream up, because otherwise you'll end up back in that cycle where you were. So
Yeah.
now I do,
What
yeah.
kind of consultancy work was it? What you did?
So I've gone back to what I used to do in banking, and go back to the thing and I would say, if you're building a business, there's no point learning two new things, which is learning a new job and trying to build your business. Go back to the thing or the thing that's easy for you to do. So over the last couple of years, I'll give you examples. Right now, I've gone back to banking and I'm doing a bit of consultancy whilst I build my business. And money, I'll talk about this in a second. But what I've also done is over Christmas, I've gone and worked in a bar. I've gone and worked in one of my favorite shops in the UK is called Paper Chase. They have amazing stationery. They have amazing music. So I went and worked there over the Christmas sales. So do the things that are fun, do the things that are easy, and do the things that will actually energize you so that you can continue to build your dream. So I've done all those things in the last 2 years.
Gosh.
But each of those things was great because I needed a reason to get up. I got up, I got a bit of money in, every little bit does start helping.
Yeah.
But what I
Yeah.
wanted to say about money, one other thing was, so it's the whole thing is when you're at your low point, then you'll find most people will find a turning point. And when you find your turning point, you're not going to go from 0 to 100 when you're feeling that low and that anxious and that depressed. It's really difficult. So you're not going to go from 0 to back to where you were. So baby steps, small steps. So the small walk, the small fresh air, one phone call, the little bit of music, every small thing happens. But what you do need and what we all need to survive really is three things essentially, I say. It's love, support, and safety. When any of those things are missing, we start really going down a fear and spiral slope. And then when all three are gone, that's when, we really go into like the depression and the anxiety and a really
Can I
spiral
ask you?
slope.
Can I ask you a few questions? Um,
Yeah.
one is um, because your parents are over in Kenya. Couldn't have you kind of like gone back to Kenya and lived?
I could have. That was one of my options. Um, but again, being independent, for me, that would have had quite a lot of shame in that I was going back because I couldn't make things work, not because I was choosing to.
Hmm.
And so that shame of having to go back to my parents at this age, I'm in my 40s. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to find another way. So that was my option of going back home, asking for help, that kind of thing. And I thought I've come too far, and I just didn't want to. I wanted to make it
Have you
work.
got other family that live in London?
So I've got two siblings who live here. I've got some friends, and I've got extended family. But don't forget, during lockdown, it was so difficult because everybody was going through their stuff. Nobody was really wanting to see you and help you because you weren't really allowed anyway, right? So it was
Yeah.
the worst time to go through this. But I imagine many people went through this because I think if you live on your own, the isolation of just not seeing anyone, it can be really hard. And again,
Yeah.
going back to the love and the safety and the support, it's the basic things we have, the nurture, the connection. Um, that really, if you lived alone and then you didn't have a job, I think compounded, it really highlighted a lot of anxiety in a lot of people.
Look, you're an inspiration, right? And all I can say to you is this: that when we were in lockdown, I started this program. I started doing this. I started off like for people who was at home who had disabilities or couldn't get out of the house. And I started off with about 5 or 10 people. Then it built up. Then it's 10,000. Then it's 20. Then it just built up, and now I've got around about over 73,000 people. And the trouble
That
is,
is incredible
yeah,
what you've done.
yeah, and but what we do is we help people. We don't we don't um we do all the interviews, but we also kind of like we help people to go into rehabs. We do all sorts of things, and that's why we get guests on. And sometimes our guests would like to join us, so they come and join us. They like to do their own show on our channel, so that's what they do. They come on and they say, "Hey, Steve, have you got? Can I want to be part of this? Can I have my own channel?" And that's what happens now and again. And but you're the inspiration. You have I the trouble is with me. I left home when I was 16, and I moved into a B&B.
Oh,
Right?
wow. You moved home to move into B&B. That's unusual.
Okay, I moved into a B&B, right, for a little while. Then after that, I came out, and I've got a couple of jobs just to pay for the B&B. But then I've got myself a little kind of bed sit, little flat. All right, and we can all do things, but the trouble is sometimes life will give us a knock. It's like a motorway. Have you ever been up a motorway?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and you've got the motorway, right? And sometimes life will give us a knock. So what we do is we go on the lay-by, the lay-by, and we say, right, okay, I made a mistake. We come back out the lay-by, we carry travel straight on, right, our merry
Yeah.
way. And then if we get another problem, we go back on the lay-by, and until we reach our goal. We all got goals in life, right? And all I say to people, and what I'm listening to you is that never give up on what you're doing, because if you could be helping people by just a few words.
Correct. And I love the idea of you can take a bit of a pause when things get too much. You can stop on the lay, but eventually if you stay there too long, it's not going to help you, right? You can't be there
No,
forever
you're not
because
going to
it
be there
is
for
just
long,
a
are
lay.
you?
So at some point you can collect your strength and you do need to get back on that motorway.
That's
And
it.
and when you get back on, you're not going to go into the fastest lane, are you? You're going to start in the slowest lane as you build up your
Oh yeah,
energy and your
yeah.
confidence. And that's exactly with life. You just take the small steps. You just get into the motorway slowly in the slow lane, and then you just build yourself up. But even in the slow lane, you will slowly, you are moving forward. So, it's
That's correct. And when we
that's the
reach our
thing.
goal, if we've achieved something, we can go into a pub and say, "Oh, can I have a beer?" or whatever. But it's all about life. And I can hear all the fireworks. Yeah, that must be really, really lovely to be there and listen to all those fireworks.
And I can see them out my window because I live on a top floor flat. So I get a good view of them. So yeah, it's really pretty. So it's quite a nice way to be chatting and watching the fireworks, if you can imagine that.
Thank you. Yeah,
And the
yeah.
other thing I wanted to say also was the love, safety, and support bit. Just to come back to that for 1 second, and then, but even when you're on the lay, let's use that. I love that analogy. So let's stick with that. But basically, from that, sometimes you might feel like, oh my God, do you know what? I, I just don't know if I can get back on the motorway, right? And obviously, eventually, you need to take the step, and we always have that resilience. And you'll find something, it might start getting dark, or something will happen that will you think, okay, I've got to find my way back on the motorway because it's now getting dark and I can't stay here too long. So whatever your thing is, but also sometimes, the love, safety, and support. You might just quickly phone a friend, and that friend will just say a few words to you or remind you of, but you drive on the motorway all the time. And that's the support that will just get you on there. You'll be like, oh yeah, you know what? It'll be fine. Actually, I could do this. It's it doesn't have to be physical support. Money is a good support, by the way, but it doesn't have to be physical support. It can be any kind of support that just reminds you of, I've got this. I can
Yeah.
do this. I've got this. I can go slow, and then I've got this.
But when you're on the lay-by, just remember this. When you're on the lay-by, you've got a phone. And you can always phone a recovery truck. And that recovery truck is your strength, your ability, and your faith to move again, come out of that lay-by and carry on.
Exactly. And that is such a good, that's a really good source of support, isn't it? If you do have a tow truck you can call, or a recovery truck you can call, then there's your strength of actually physical support. And that's, perfect. Sometimes
Just
that's
don't
what
go.
we
Just
need.
don't get outside the car and push it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
That's gonna end up in a disaster for sure. So that's the support, that's the safety. And then sometimes, just yeah, sometimes you need that level of support, or sometimes you just need some encouraging words, or you need someone to just hold your hand and just remind you it's okay and you're not alone. It's whatever you need in that moment. Get it. But one thing I will say is that honestly, we have more resilience than we think.
And that's it. And I'll give you some advice. You should do what I've done. I've written a book about my life, and that's what you should do.
I will when the time is right. What is your book called, Steve? I'll check it out.
There's more to life than this.
Oh wow, when did you write it? Tell us a little bit more about that, because I do want to. I'll definitely get a copy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's about when I was younger. When I was young, and it's up. Then it's about when I kind of like was suicidal on a bridge. I was going to kill myself on a bridge. Um, then I was sectioned and I went into hospital. Came out. I sorted my life out. Um, done TV, did radio, been on television, been to London a few times. For television for this morning and stuff. And then we then after that we what else was it? Then I kind of like started helping people doing things, But in the book, it's really good because, well, I would say it's really good, but it's my story in it. But also, as you go through, you got these worksheets, and you're thinking, that's good. So I write down that problem that I've got. So it goes right through it. And at the end, it will say, oh, what problems you got? It's like a workbook. It's really good.
And that's amazing, because actually your workbook even, and your book is based on things you've actually experienced and things that actually help you. So it's something that's tried and tested, which is always much more likely to work than someone just doing something very theoretical.
Yeah. And it's all about relationships, and it's all about my life, what happened. So anyway, yeah. And so that's that. And I will send you some links, and you can have a look. Anyway, thank you
Yeah,
very
send
much
me the
for
link. That sounds inspiring. So this is the thing
brilliant.
for everybody listening, I guess. It's like whatever your situation is, whatever your story is, there are times we all feel low, but then when you hear stories of people who have been there, so you're not alone in feeling those things. But then hearing of stories of people who have managed to turn it around should give you some hope and remind you that you can find a way to come out of that as well.
That's it. And that's what we all on Crossroads. That's what we're about. This is called Crossroads because in life everybody goes to a crossroads in their life. We do this all the time, and we don't know what to turn. We're in the middle and we're thinking, right, what way should I go? And sometimes we make mistakes. We go the wrong way. Sometimes we make a good mistake, but sometimes we just carry on, and that's why we call Crossroads. And yeah, all right,
I love that name. And actually, we face crossroads all the time in so many different things, from our relationships to our jobs, to our careers, to our money decisions, to, small crossroads and big crossroads. But we're constantly having to face crossroads. I love it. I love that. And I love
yeah,
that name. It's so correct.
yeah, and
And I
that's
guess
why,
the point is that when you do end up in so, on a spiritual term, we say there's no such thing as a wrong path. It's just an experience. So if you choose a path and then you think, oh God, that was the wrong path, I would say just change the self-talk and say, okay, actually, I don't think I want this path anymore. And it was just an experience. And then, you can either, there'll be another crossroad where you can choose a different path again.
yeah, that's and that's what it's all about. But the trouble is, because I'm a Christian, which is why I kind of like did this for. This is why, and I've had loads of people on here. I've had celebrities on here, stars on here, people telling me about their lives and about. I've had people crying on here. I've had people lost their children, babies, and it's all about life. And you know, and people it's come through, and they are tough, and they have made decisions in their life, and they left me reviews, lovely reviews and stuff. And the trouble is, people are strong, but the trouble is, sometimes we're weak, and some we can. At first, we feel that we can't get through any. There's no hope, but there is hope, but we've got to look for it.
There's always hope. I think it's inside of us, it's outside of us, and it's in whatever it's in whatever you believe, whether you believe in the universe or you believe in Christ or you believe in a God. It's inside of us, it's outside of us, and it's in whatever you believe our source is, our maker is. And really, I think in those moments, you find the different sources of hope, and and you really do dig deep for that hope in those moments. But the
Brilliant.
beauty of that, I find, is that hope you found in those dark moments, it always stays even after the moment.
That's true. Very true. Very true.
And I think
Okay.
sometimes those moments just bring you closer towards finding that faith and hope, which just brings your life that extra meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. And if people say to me, is there, people say to me, is there a God? And I say, of course it is. And well, when I was on the bridge, there was no one else on there with me, and somebody was talking to me saying, Steve, this is not the way. So unless it's a unless someone just dangled from the bridge and gave me that message, then thank you very much. But there was no one else there. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Great
That's
show, and I love all the work you're doing. So
brilliant.
continue doing
We,
that.
we try, we what we're doing, we're trying to get you back again, and then we can talk to you some more. That's what we do on here. We try to get people back. Is that
Okay,
okay?
that'd be great. Yeah, it'd be amazing. It would be amazing, and I can share a little bit more of the um, moments I used to lay in bed and feel really low and how I actually got up. Definitely.
Brilliant. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, brilliant. I will get that sorted out here and we will get you on again. All right?
Amazing. Thanks, Steve.
You take care. Bless you. Bye bye.
Bye.